Hello everybody and welcome to Arrow Nicely News. Today is Friday, July 2nd, 2021. My name is Lenny Hernandez and we have a wonderful show for you today. We celebrate CNA Week, a cruise ship happy hour, a brand new community opens up, our speaker series, and preschool friends. It's going to be great. So what are we waiting for? Welcome to Arrow Nicely News. Our first story of the day is a celebration of our care partners. Just the other day, our communities kicked off Certified Nurses Assistant Week, and we took that opportunity to show our appreciation for the hard-working caregivers in our communities, the care partners. These employees work hard day and night to make sure that the residents have everything they need to live their lives to the fullest. They are beams of sunshine, goofballs, and are sturdy rocks that residents can always rely on. Arrow celebrated their care partners with delicious meals like mouth-watering breakfasts at Hudson Grand and VITALIA Stowe, delightful lunches at Kent Ridge and Castlewood, a lovely ceremony at Chestnut Hill, fabulous gifts including fanny packs, and much more across our communities. We couldn't do what we do without our dedicated, skilled care partners, and they are extremely appreciated by everyone at Arrow and by the residents living in the communities. Huge thank you to our care partners. You are appreciated and we are grateful for you. Our next story shifts our attention to VITALIA Active Adult Community in North Olmsted, where a lot of great things are starting to happen. The community is gearing up to welcome residents. They are receiving packages daily, firing up the grills, and they even hosted a job fair to make sure that they had all the help that they're going to need. The new residents are going to be receiving a welcome so warm that it would make a hobbit blush. The amenities are top-notch. The food is scrumptious and satisfying, and the people are the salt of the earth. Friendly, smart, funny, and more than ready to take care of residents. So if you missed it back on May 14th, go check out that episode of Arrow Nicely News. It's all about VITALIA North Olmsted. And let me tell you, it's fantastic, if I do say so myself. And to all of you residents who are soon to be moving into VITALIA North Olmsted, they're ready to have you. What do you say that we take to the seas by checking out what's been happening at VITALIA Strongsville? They recently had a Caribbean cruise themed happy hour that truly took you to an island paradise. They decorated to the nines, donned the colors of the captain's hats, made food that tasted of the islands like jerk chicken and blackened shrimp, and even sported the ink to match. Not to mention the musical guests who serenaded attendees to complete the transportation to the Caribbean. Residents had a blast, employees had a great time. I'm just upset that I missed the boat on this one.
First, the job. Then the rim shot.
The Castlewood Senior Living over in Nixa, Missouri has begun developing a partnership with the local preschool, The Adventures of Learning, and they made a delightful video to send to their new friends.
Hi, I'm Grandma Lois and I'm 86 years young. And this is my friend.
Hi, I'm Grandma Debbie and I'm 76.
I'm old. Hi, I'm Cecilia Young and I'm 84 years old. You know what I used to do? I used to river raft and we did that for 26 times. My name is Lorraine, and I'm 97 years old, and I used to teach school.
Hi, I'm Max. I'm 89 years young, and when I was your age, my favorite food was peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. And it still is my favorite to this day. I just like peanut butter.
Okay. Rochelle, hello. Thank you for being here with me. You are the Resident Services Director at the Castlewood Senior Living, and you are the person who created that little video. Tell us about it.
We just love that piece of work. We are trying to introduce ourselves to our preschool partners, what we call them, from the Adventures of Learning. And how do you introduce two groups of people who are multiple generations and more than several decades apart and make strangers become friends more quickly when you get to see them in person. And so that's why we did it.
Why is it important for this multi-generational programming to start
I
happening?
think if you look back in history, about the 1800s to the 1900s, most Americans lived in a multi-generational home. Little children got to have the value of spending time with older generations because grandparents, as they got older, lived. And that changed over that next 100 years, and fewer people lived with older people. More and more young people began to move farther away because transportation became easy and affordable. Technology came along and you could Skype with grandma instead of see her in person. And we lost a lot of that. Nothing can substitute for really the intimacy of hand to hand, and a little 3-year-old's child coming up and doing this and telling you it's the best day ever, my fake grandma. You know, there's nothing that can replace that.
What is something that you would say sets the Castlewood Senior Living apart from any other place you've been at?
What I see is this incredible, genuine care for one another. And the number of times they have told me, we are like family here. We care for each other very much here, and we check on our neighbors. And when we walked into, this is a great time, but when we walked into the preschool and had our time with the children yesterday, they wanted to know if we would ever come back again. And I said, well, do you all know what adoption means? And they said, well, you know, Joey over there, he's adopted. And I said, well, do you know what it means when you adopt this preschool and we adopt you as grandparents and grandmas and grandpas? And they looked at me and I said, well, that means that we don't just think about you once and we come out and visit and then we go home. That means we think about you from the last month that we visit to this month, and that we talk to each other and we send each other things. And then one of my sweet grandmas in the pictures looked at the little children and she said, that means that we're family.
That gets you right here, right? It gets you right here. You're just like, oh. Well, thank you very much for jumping in and doing this interview with me.
My pleasure.
And for our final story of the day, we're taking a look at Arrow Senior Living's Diversity and Inclusion series. So far, Arrow has released 2 videos in the series. The first was a conversation with Ber-Henda Williams focused on Juneteenth. Take a look.
Do you think racial equality and harmony is possible in the United States today?
Whew.
That was a tough one.
That's a tough one. I want to say that we have to believe in the impossible.
That's as far
because no, I'll elaborate a little bit more on that. We have to believe in the impossible because look at you and I having this conversation, because there was a point in this history where we didn't even have the technology to make this conversation available. So that's one. And then 2, because of our backgrounds, it would be one, life-threatening for both of us to be in a conversation like this, because the things that we're talking about could have had very real repercussions for both of us, because we're talking about challenging a system that has been put in place to keep people separate and to use fear and violence to uphold that system. So we are having, for our ancestors, an impossible conversation. So that's what I mean when I say we have to believe in the impossible.
And the second was a conversation with Jeffrey Marsh about pride and the LGBTQ plus experience in America today.
Pride started in 1969. That was when the Stonewall Riot was. People in the movement had sort of gotten a little fed up, a little upset, because a favorite bar that they would go to in New York City called Stonewall had been raided by the police several times. So, and people like me went to this bar, and people that are, all kinds of LGBTQ went to this bar, and the police would just show up and start arresting people and put them in prison, and just for being who they are. And people got upset. And in 1969, in June, people had had enough, and they started to tell the police, no, we're not going with you. And there were several people involved in that night. And it sort of snowballed from that kind of protest that night into parades.
Look, if you haven't seen those, go and check them out right now, or as soon as you're done watching this episode. They are fantastic conversations full of insight, humor, and they're highly educational. But look, Arrow isn't done after those. No, we are not. The next speaker in the series is a woman named Alex Dacy. Alex has a condition called spinal muscular atrophy, a genetic neuromuscular disorder that causes muscle wasting and mobility problems. Alex is a disability advocate and founder of the Wheelchair Rapunzel clothing line, focusing on body positive inclusion and empowering statement pieces. She'll be speaking with an Arrow community resident to talk about disability awareness and the progress still to be made in regards to rights and accessibility. Look, we're very excited to hear about this topic and what we can do to improve the lives of those living with disabilities. And this video will be released on July 26th, National Disability Independence Day. So mark your calendars and don't miss it. That'll do it for this week's episode of Arrow Nicely News. Thank you all for joining us on this fine Friday. Have a safe 4th of July weekend, everybody. For Arrow Nicely News, I'm Lenny Hernandez. We'll see you all next Friday. Bye.